American Crossroads is responsible for the content of this advertising. What happened to Barack Obama? The press and even Democrats say his attacks on Mitt Romney's business record are misleading, unfair, and untrue. Blowing smoke. Too far. No evidence. So why's Obama attacking? He's added $4 billion in new debt every single day. Unemployment stuck above 8%. Family incomes falling. Barack Obama can't run on that record.
Being a successful small business person isn't just about collecting a profit or outperforming your competition. It's about contributing to the success of this country's economy. It's about contributing to your country's continued growth and prosperity. And it's about securing your piece of the American dream and helping your employees and your suppliers and all the people you work with secure their piece of the American dream. If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
The Republican National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
This has not been a show council. This has been a work council.
There's no specific reason, except the president's obviously got a lot on his plate.
Sometimes people forget the magnitude of it. Sometimes I forget.
The private sector is doing fine.
If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. And most of the money that we're investing as part of this plan will get out the door immediately and go directly to job creation.
The U.S. money has helped to create some 500 auto assembly factory jobs, but they are not in the United States.
Nearly $2 billion stimulus dollars have been spent to build these things. Most of them have been built overseas.
More than 250 foreign workers were hired using federal stimulus money.
Jobs that pay well, jobs that can't be outsourced.
How could it be? A lot of them going overseas, even about to go to China.
A Chinese company called A-Power expects to get $450 million stimulus dollars.
Most of the jobs will come from China.
The plants were getting a combined $300 million under the stimulus program to build electric car batteries. And they filled some of those sought-after jobs with Korean workers. That drew anger from local labor unions.
Nearly 8 out of every 10 stimulus dollars for wind power have gone to foreign companies.
Jobs that pay well, jobs that can't be outsourced.
Most of the jobs are going overseas.
We can't feed our kids at home. It gets hard, you know.
The administration refuses to acknowledge there's a problem.
The Department of Energy says it knew the cars would be assembled.
Very jobs Americans
about
could do.
2,000 manufacturing jobs in China.
But this is American taxpayer dollars, and they should be American jobs that are created.
The true engine of economic growth will always be companies like Solyndra.
We all know about Solyndra, the White House emails, the FBI raids. Solyndra investors raise campaign money for Obama. The government gives Solyndra $500 million in taxpayer money. Politics as usual. Within the administration, the company's potential collapse had long been discussed, knowing all along Solyndra would have to fire their workers. But Solyndra held off until after the 2010 elections. 1,100 workers had no idea they would be fired, but the Obama administration knew. All that mattered was the 2010 election. Optics, not workers. It's not about people, it's politics. Solyndra's workers felt betrayed. Today, 90% of Solyndra's laid-off workers remain unemployed. $500 million in taxpayer money gone. And Obama said this was a model of jobs and growth.
Do you regret that? No, I don't. Overall, it's doing well.
Tell President Obama American workers aren't pawns in your political games.
Is that there are almost 500,000 more people unemployed today than 4 years ago. And if Debbie and President Obama were good on their promises on the stimulus, you remember they said if we passed this $1 trillion stimulus that we'd have 5.5% unemployment today. What that means is if they kept their promises, there would be 8.5 million more people employed today than there would be 4 years ago. The fact of the matter is, this president can't fulfill a promise. They're living in fantasy land. And you know what? We're going to put this dream to an end of theirs in November. Save America, fire Barack Obama, and hire Mitt Romney. That's the best stimulus plan for this country right now, John.
And now a message from the President of the United States.
From 2001 to 2008, for more than a decade, the Bush tax cuts, a decade in the making, the economic crisis of 2008. The Bush tax cuts, the wealthiest Americans contribute their fair share. Big financial institutions, corporations. Big financial institutions, corporations. 10 million college students would lose an average of $1,000 each on financial aid. Their plan to eliminate health insurance for nursing home patients, children with autism and other disabilities. Typically taken countries up to 10 years to recover from financial crises of this magnitude. And what is holding us back is not a lack of big ideas, lack of big ideas, lack of big ideas. The Bush tax cuts, lack of big ideas.
1 hour later.
Lack of big ideas, lack of big ideas.
President Obama promised us his health care law
is absolutely not a tax increase.
Now we know that's not true. Obama's health care law is actually one of the largest tax increases in history. Shouldn't Obama's priorities have been creating jobs and ending reckless spending? Instead, he focused on a $2 trillion health care takeover that we have to pay for. How can we afford this tax? We're already struggling. Tell Obama, repeal the health care law and pass patient-centered reform.
Maybe your family is like most, struggling to make it by. But recently, President Obama said,
the private sector is doing fine.
How can our president be so out of touch?
The private sector is doing fine.
How can he fix the economy if he doesn't know what's wrong?
The private sector is doing fine.
The private sector is not doing fine.
Bob Kerry's record?
I rise today to express my opposition to SJR 41, the Balanced Budget Amendment.
He was wrong then, and now our debt's more than tripled.
It isn't just because I live in Greenwich Village now. The longer I've been here, the more further to the left I get on health care.
Kerry's for Obamacare, and he lobbied for Obama's job-killing energy tax, urging senators to say,
damn the consequences, I'm going to vote yes.
Liberal Bob Kerry is out of touch. American Crossroads is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Are you ready to vote for a tax increase?
Oh, yeah, it's going to take additional revenues. No, if you lock yourself in to no tax increases under no circumstances, you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
It is reasonable to at least suppose that that vote is one of the reasons that Senator Nelson decided to step down, because a lot of Nebraskans are upset by it, which raises the issue with you. If you run, if you're elected, and this comes up in your first term, would you vote to take Obamacare down?
No, I wouldn't.
Democrat Senator Ben Nelson was the deciding vote to pass Obamacare. In return, he was promised goodies for Nebraska, his state. The stench from the Cornhusker kickback basically forced him to retire. The Democrats convinced Nelson's predecessor, Bob Kerrey, to run again. He was a Navy SEAL, a Medal of Honor winner, self-made millionaire, former governor and senator, and Democrats thought he would be a shoo-in. But Kerry's been living in New York for over a decade. In the July issue of Vogue magazine, his wife, a former writer for Saturday Night Live, mocked the people of Nebraska for saying pop instead of soda and for not suffering from guilt over things. The Midwest is strange land for an Easterner of my ilk, she wrote. Now, Kerry's Republican opponent, Deb Fischer, has a strong lead. Even Kerry admits he might not be able to close the gap. One reason is Kerry supports Obamacare. He calls the flap over the Cornhusker kickback an odd situation where a senator actually does something for his home state, and it becomes a negative. Kerry added, I don't need to be a senator again. I won't be heartbroken if I lose, but I thought I at least had to make the effort. So finally, we have common ground with the Democrats. Sir, we applaud you for making the effort, and we won't be heartbroken if you lose either. So make everybody happy and lose. Your wife can stay back east with her ilk and feel right at home along with you.
Bob Kerry's false negative attacks on Deb Fischer. The last decade, Kerry's lived in New York. He's out of touch with Nebraskans and desperate. Nebraskans deserve better. Deb Fischer's a common-sense Nebraskan, small businesswoman. Deb Fischer passed the state's largest tax cut, worked with Governor Heineman to cut spending and balance budgets, and Deb will work to repeal Obamacare's taxes on the middle class. Deb Fischer does things the Nebraska way, responsibly. Deb Fischer, a Nebraska senator.
I'm Deb Fischer, and I approve this message. I'm Deb Fischer, and I approve this message.
Deb Fischer is a Nebraskan, conservative backbone, character. A small business rancher used to hard work. A state senator who passed Nebraska's largest tax cut, 100% pro-life. America faces big challenges and career politicians are to blame. Deb Fischer wants to change that by cutting spending, a balanced budget, repeal Obamacare. Deb Fischer works the Nebraska way, responsibly. Time Washington did the same. Deb Fischer for Nebraska.